Li Mabai came to the Prime Minister's residence to propose after topping the imperial examinations, and my father agreed. The maidservant, in despair, threw herself into a well, resulting in 2 lives lost. On the wedding night, Li Mabai discovered I was not his beloved. Without showing any emotion, he secretly investigated, believing I had driven the maidservant to her death out of jealousy. For the next 10 years, he rose rapidly in the ranks with the Prime Minister's support. Outwardly, he was gentle and attentive to me, but when the Prime Minister's family was implicated in a rebellion case, he took the opportunity to strike, causing my father's wrongful death and the exile of my entire family. I also suffered under his torment, being thrown into an icy pool to drown in the dead of winter. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day he came to the Prime Minister's residence to propose marriage. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The bone-chilling cold and the suffocating sensation of near-death still seemed to linger in my body. With a pale face and lightly chattering teeth, I silently stared at the youthful reflection in the mirror, plotting how to kill Li Mabai. I knew he would come to propose today, with great fanfare, making it known to everyone. Everyone says the newly appointed top scholar fell in love at first sight with the Prime Minister's daughter, calling it a match made in heaven. In reality, the one who captured his heart at first glance was my maid, Jing-Kei. Li Mabai is distantly related to my Nan family through some convoluted connections, which is why he stayed at the Prime Minister's residence while in the capital for the imperial examinations. My father valued talent and treated him with courtesy. My elder brother also mentioned him to me, saying he had the makings of a top scholar. Startled Magpie took a fancy to him and, pretending to be me, approached him repeatedly. The two soon fell deeply in love, even to the point of having a child together. I have no affection for Li Mabai, but I know it's a good match. A young top scholar, talented in his own right, with my father's support, is bound to have a bright future. Moreover, his family is poor, with only an elderly mother to care for. In every aspect, he would need to rely on the Prime Minister's household, so no one would dare to mistreat me. Thus, when my parents asked me, I agreed to this marriage. However, this time when Mother Chen by my mother's side came looking for me, she said, "Young Master Li is seeking to marry the maid Jing-Kei by your side, and the madam wants you to make the decision yourself." I immediately knew that Li Mabai had also returned. Jing-Kei had taken 3 days of sick leave, but in reality, it was due to unstable signs of pregnancy. She dared not exert herself and stayed in bed all day, missing the opportunity to explain things to Li Mabai. I took Auntie Chen to the side room to find her. At this time, her pregnancy wasn't yet visible, but she did look unwell. I said, "The newly appointed top scholar wants to marry you." A look of pleasant surprise crossed her face, followed by shy confusion as she avoided meeting my eyes. She was terrified that I would press her about her affair with Li Mabai, but I didn't ask anything. I had another maid, Ming Chan, dress her up and take her to the front hall to meet the guest. When Li Mabai saw her, he froze for a moment, then his eyes turned red. It had been 10 years since he last saw her. When he looked at me again, his eyes were filled with hatred. My hatred was no less than his. I thought about hiding it, but the moment I saw him, the oppression from my past life came flooding back. My father was beheaded. My mother died of illness on the way to exile. My brother lost a leg. My sister-in-law took her own life to preserve her chastity. And of my 2 nephews, one died and the other was injured. My family is ruined, all thanks to Li Mabai. The overwhelming hatred in my heart surges uncontrollably. Impossible to conceal. Li Mabai was momentarily stunned. I could tell he noticed. "But I don't care," I said. "Jing-Kei is a servant of my Nan family." I had no idea when the top scholar took a liking to her. But a gentleman delights in facilitating others' happiness. Since the top scholar sincerely wishes to marry her, as her master, I have no reason to object. I returned Gink's deed of servitude to her. "You are free now. Jing Ke was moved to tears. Li Mabai's expression was complicated as he cupped his hands in salute to me. Preparing to leave, I added, "Wait a moment." Li Mabai turned to look at me warily. A servant led the physician in through the door. I pointed to Jing Ke and said, "Dr. Huang, please examine this young lady's pulse." The startled magpie fluttered in panic, hiding behind Li Mubai. Li Mubai shot me a glance filled with both disappointment and disgust. No need. My mother saw through the situation and had two sturdy maids restrain the magpie. Fearing harm to the fetus, the magpie dared not struggle and had no choice but to let physician Huang take her pulse, her pretty face turning deathly pale. "The fetal condition is somewhat unstable, but it's nothing serious. I'll prescribe some medicine to stabilize the pregnancy," Physician Huang said. My mother was furious. Shameless creature. Startled magpie was both ashamed and afraid. Her face flushed crimson, instinctively about to kneel and admit her fault. Li Mabai held her back. "You're no longer a servant of the Prime Minister's household. There's no need to kneel to them," he added. "Madam Nan, startled magpie is my betrothed. I must ask you to choose your words carefully." He still thought of himself as the Crown Prince's confidant and the new Emperor's close minister, believing everyone should defer to him. My mother was so angry she smashed a cup. My father gave him a cold look. What grand airs the top scholar puts on, daring to lecture the wife of the Prime Minister's household. Li Mabai's face stiffened. He came back to his senses. "Aside from the unstable fetal condition, are there any other issues?" I asked. Dr. Huang shook his head. "No." I looked at Li Mabai. "Listen carefully. Your fiancée left my Prime Minister's residence unharmed and without illness. If she dies or becomes disabled in the future, don't you dare blame it on my Prime Minister's residence. Moreover, as a maidservant of the Prime Minister's residence, engaging in illicit relations with an outsider without proper matchmaking is punishable by immediate execution according to the law. In other words, I could openly and justifiably kill Jing Ke. There was no need to secretly force her to her death." Li Mabai understood, his expression hesitant. My father told Li Mabai to get out. He bumped into Zhao Xijia, who was rushing over as he was rolling away. Hearing Zhao Xijia shout urgently, "Uncle Nan, don't be so quick to betroth Jinping to Li Mubai. Consider me instead." His face darkened, and he stopped rolling away. Zhao Xijia was the young master of the Duke Qing'an's residence, the nephew of the Empress. We had known each other since childhood. He had two older brothers and one sister above him, being spoiled rotten by the entire family. Though arrogant and unruly, he wasn't entirely without talent. In this imperial examination, he made a bet with someone and still managed to rank 37th in the second tier. As a child of nobility, he didn't need academic honors to prove himself. He just wanted to show he wasn't a complete waste. And afterward, he remained his usual self. In my past life, when he came to propose marriage, I had already agreed to Li Mabai. But I've privately compared, and this marriage with the Duke of Cheng'an's household is also quite good. The elders are kind, the siblings harmonious, and Zhao Xijia is the kind of man who will take you out for fun and leisure when times are good, and shield you from the storm when trouble arises. The facts proved this to be true. After the misfortune befell my family, he abandoned his idle ways, secured an official position through his family, and actively worked on our behalf. Later, it was he who found the crucial evidence that cleared my father's name, lifting the unjust accusation from my Nan family. Such an immense debt of gratitude is hard to repay even by pledging one's life. My eyes turned red. Zhao Zi was stunned for a moment. "Wait, is this from fear or joy?" I burst out laughing. "Silly, it's Jing Ke that Lord Li is proposing to marry. Why are you in such a hurry?" Zhao Zi was stunned again, giving Li Mubai a bewildered look before finally managing to say after a long pause, "Brother Li, you really have unique taste." Li Mabai's expression grew even darker. My marriage with Zhao Xijia was settled. Li Mabai seized the opportunity to speak with me while I was out. "In your past life, you paid the price for causing Jink's death. We're even now. In this life. As long as you don't harm Jingke and behave yourself. I won't target your Nan family again. Although Zhao Xija is not an ideal match. He is more than sufficient for you. Forget about me. Live well with him. And put away those malicious thoughts. Stop trying to make things difficult for Jingke. As for you exposing her pregnancy and humiliating her, I'll let it slide this time, considering you returned her deed of ownership. But if you persist in your old ways, don't blame me for being ruthless. He stood tall and imposing, his expression fierce, his eyes as cold as arrows, just like when he turned against me in our past life. But back then, he was clad in shoe brocade, wore jade boots, and had priceless jade pendants hanging from his waist. Even the simplest hairpin he used was made of rare ivory, instead of the current faded cyan robe. Not a single valuable item on his person. Half of a person's dignity and imposing presence is built upon their appearance. Like a powerless madman, he remained utterly unaware that he now possessed nothing. No bargaining power whatsoever with me. I watched him calmly. We're not settling this. He sighed and called me by my pet name. Jinping. Why must you be like this? I've never liked a woman as spoiled and unlearned as you. Jingke told me everything. Your reputation for talent was built by her and Mingchan on your behalf. I suppose in your past life, you already knew about my relationship with Jingke. Yet you deliberately let the mistake stand to marry me and then drove her to her death. Enough. Let's not dwell on it. You've been my wife for 10 years. You should be content. Truly. He is blind in both eyes and heart. In our past life, Jingke not only impersonated me but also secretly copied the poems I wrote, the zither I played, the paintings I created, even the unfinished chess game I left with my elder brother. She claimed them all as her own. Li Ma Bai, deceived by her and unaware of her true identity, had every reason to believe she was a talented woman. But even after the truth came to light, he still let himself be led by the nose by her few words. Isn't that foolish? Li Ma Bai. I stared into his eyes, my face as cold as frost. My father, my mother, my sister-in-law, and my nephew. 4 lives. It's not something you can simply declare settled with a few words. And the child in my womb. For pregnancies in 10 years. For miscarriages. Ultimately leaving me unable to bear children for life. After all these incidents, he actually dares to say we're even. I sneered with bitter irony. Li Ma Bai, between you and me, it's a fight to the death. My father certainly did not like Li Mu Bai, but I still added fuel to the fire. This man is cunning and morally flawed. If he wanted to marry the maid by my side, he could have done so discreetly. Yet he deliberately made a grand spectacle of it, ensuring everyone knew. Everyone assumed he was courting the Prime Minister's daughter, only to find out in the end that he married the maid by the young lady's side. If not for CZ, I would likely have become the laughingstock of the entire capital. As the top scholar personally appointed by His Majesty, his conduct should not have been so improper. Yet he deliberately acted this way. Daughter suspects he is already allied with father's political enemies. Father, you must be cautious. My father took it to heart. I repeated pretty much the same words to the Crown Prince, using a tone full of complaints and doubts. And immediately, the Crown Prince formed a bad impression of Li Mu Bai. The Crown Prince is Zhao Xija's cousin, so we're somewhat familiar with each other. When he learned about my engagement to Zhao Xija, he was delighted. You should thank Li Mu Bai. If it weren't for him, Xija wouldn't have rushed to propose. He then added, Xija, what do you want? I'll give you a gift as a congratulatory present. Zhao Xija was quite blunt. You have a hot spring villa in the outskirts of the capital. The Crown Prince was shocked by his shamelessness. Do you know how much this villa is worth? He said sheepishly. Jinping is afraid of the cold. Yes, I'm afraid of the cold. Li Mu Bai also knew I was afraid of the cold, so he chose the way I feared most to send me to my death. Li Mu Bai and Jing's wedding was scheduled for the end of June, hastily arranged. But there was no other choice. Any later, and the pregnancy would be impossible to conceal. If his wedding with me in our past life was bustling with excitement, then his wedding with Jing-Kei in this life was equally desolate. The newly crowned top scholar should have been highly sought after. But everyone knew he had offended the Prime Minister. No one was willing to oppose the Prime Minister for the sake of a young man with an uncertain future. Moreover, the top scholar should have been appointed to the Hanlin Academy. But for some reason, the second and third place scholars received their appointments, while Li Mubai alone was left without any official decree from above. Their wedding was held in a one-courtyard house rented by the Li family. The space wasn't large, but Li Mubai spared no expense, hiring an outside catering team for the banquet, 5 taels of silver per table, with 10 tables set up, and even borrowing space from the neighbors. In the end, not a single official showed up, though the neighbors filled 2 tables. It said Li Mubai's face remained dark from start to finish. He suspected my father had interfered behind the scenes and managed to intercept me again when I went to the jewelry shop. After 10 years of marriage, he knew me all too well. Do you think I rose to a high position in my past life solely because of your father? He said indignantly. The Crown Prince favored me because we shared the same political views and interests, because I had genuine talent and practical ability, and because I could assist him in governing the country. He mocked me. Ignorant woman, with such narrow vision. Do you think this can stop me? In my past life, he had my father's recommendation and won the Crown Prince's favor with a policy essay. My father personally mentored him, and he was willing to endure hardship, quickly distinguishing himself. He was right about one thing. He truly had real talent and solid learning. But so what? I called the shopkeeper. Why is there a beggar coming in? He was thrown out. His face flushed with anger. Li Mubai never got to meet the Crown Prince, even if he possessed extraordinary talent, even if his policy essay was brilliantly written. With his status and without anyone's recommendation, it would be impossible for him to meet His Highness the Crown Prince. But I still underestimated him. He managed to connect with Chief Eunuch Deng Rushing, not only recognizing him as a godfather but also promising that the first son born to Jing-Kei would take his surname and be raised under his care. Li Mubai's 60-year-old mother fell ill from anger, but Jing-Kei supported him. His policy proposal finally made its way onto the Crown Prince's desk as he had wished, but the prince didn't read it and had it thrown away. The Crown Prince despised him, adopting a eunuch as a father, betraying his own child. Utterly devoid of a scholar's integrity, Deng Rushing secured another minor 7th-rank position for Li Mubai. Though the rank was low, many families were still willing to associate with him out of respect for the chief eunuch. General Sui's mother, the lady of the Zhenwu general's household, was celebrating her 70th birthday, and they had invited them to the feast. At the banquet, I caught sight of Jing-Kei. Her belly was already showing, and she wore a loose, turquoise ruchuan made of modest fabric. The golden hairpin with a flying phoenix dangling from it was still the one I had given her. When she noticed me looking at her, her face flushed slightly. Some people gossiped. I really don't understand what the new top scholar was thinking. Actually marrying a maid. Exactly. She looks rather plain, with no elegance at all. So timid and shrinking. Look at her clothes. Even my maid wouldn't wear such things. Others directly called out to her. Hey, aren't you going to greet your master? These people looked down upon Jing-Kei and were also jealous of her. Li Mobo was exceptionally talented and strikingly handsome, attracting many admirers in both his past and present lives. No one could have imagined that he would ultimately marry a lowly maid. Jing-Kei lowered her head, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her skirt. Then, as if she could no longer contain herself, she quickly glanced up at me and walked over to stand before me. Miss, I know you resent me. Her eyes were red. But you shouldn't have incited these people to humiliate me like this. After all, I am the wife of the top scholar. I found it amusing. Why would I resent you? My husband ranked first in the imperial examination, while yours was only 37th in the second tier. You come from a noble family, and I'm just a maid. Since my husband outshines yours, it's only natural you'd feel unbalanced. She had her own twisted logic. I laughed. You're overthinking it. While top scholars are impressive, they're not rare treasures. Since the founding of our dynasty, the Celestial Empire has produced 56 top scholars, and in 3 more years, there will be another one. There's no need to assume everyone treasures them. Moreover, I looked her up and down with a smirk. I could never endure a life of hardship. The room erupted in laughter. Startled Magpie couldn't hold back her tears and ran off crying. Swainwan quickly grabbed her and glared at me. Keep your mouth shut. Don't cause trouble in my house. She's pregnant. You know, she's the niece of General Jinwu and has always been at odds with me, constantly competing for the title of the capital's top talented woman. It's not necessarily about standing up for Jing Kai. She just seizes every opportunity to provoke me. But my eyes grew warm, and my tone softened involuntarily. Fine. For your sake, I won't argue with her. Swainwan looked at me as if she'd seen a ghost. Nan Jinping, are you out of your mind? In her previous life, the Sui family, like our Nan family, was also implicated in a treason case. But unlike us, the Sui family was not innocent. Swainwan's uncle, General Jinwu, had indeed colluded with Prince An, opening the gates wide to facilitate Prince An's invasion of Duanjing. Later, when Prince An was defeated, General Jinwu was shot to death by a hail of arrows, and the entire Sui family was executed. However, because Swainwan bore some resemblance to Jing Kai, Li Mabai saved her and took her into his household. On the surface, she seemed at odds with me, but in secret, she helped me several times. When I was gravely ill and near death, Li Mabai refused to allow a doctor to be called. It was she who deliberately made herself sick to summon a physician and managed to obtain medicine for me. When Li Mabai threw me into the freezing pond, she was desperate to jump in and save me. After being stopped by Li Mabai, she shouted to me, Nan Jinping, hold on. Zhao Xijia has already overturned the unjust verdict against your family. Your eldest brother is about to return to the capital. Don't you dare die. Who will I spar with if you're gone? But I still died. I couldn't hold on. I stood up, and Jing Kai instinctively took a step back. Ignoring her, I hugged Swainwan and declared, I hereby announce that from now on, you are the #1 talented woman of Duanjing. I, Nan Jinping, concede defeat. Swainwan shivered. Nan Jinping, don't be like this. You're scaring me. Jing Kai left before the banquet ended. I chased after her, but she warily kept her distance. What do you want? She asked, shielding her belly. I chuckled softly. Haven't you noticed you bear some resemblance to Swainwan? Though, Swainwan is prettier, more elegant, more talented, and comes from a better family than you. But I heard the Sui elders don't think much of Li Mabai. Her face drained of color. You're trying to sow discord between us. You can go ask Li Mabai, I said. She fled in panic, her eyes brimming with tears. I knew she wouldn't ask. She was just a maidservant sold by her parents to human traffickers, having betrayed her master's household, with no one to rely on except Li Mabai. Whether what I said was true or not, she wouldn't dare to confront Li Mabai. She would only observe in secret, and then she would discover that Li Mabai indeed treated Swainwan with special favor. Pregnant women are naturally prone to overthinking, and any slight clue would be magnified by her. She would surely find no peace. A person's energy is limited. Since Li Mabai has to comfort and take care of her, other aspects might not be as thorough. I turned around, and Swainwan was standing right behind me, frowning. What did you say to her? She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Nothing. Why are you acting so strange today? I didn't explain to her, just whispered. Your uncle seems to be involved with someone. Tell your father to be cautious. She looked at me in horror. I grabbed her hand, my expression grave. This concerns the lives of your entire family. Remember to keep it secret. I could only say this much. The rest depends on their luck. Swainwan was terrified and immediately went to seek her father. 2 months later, the two Sui brothers became bitter enemies. It was said that General Sui had schemed over Swain Wan's marriage. Though the plan failed, the conflict between the two families escalated fiercely. Not only did they divide the household, but they also vowed never to interact again. I was quite pleased. Swain Wan's father was a clear-headed man, living under the same roof as General Sui. He would surely notice any clues if he paid attention, cutting the Gordian knot. Even if implicated in the future, it wouldn't lead to the same tragic fate as in the previous life. Swain Wan arranged to meet me at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion and gifted me an expensive set of hair ornaments. My father said this is a token of gratitude. I'll take it without hesitation. Her attitude toward me has changed, and she's even willing to share some heartfelt words with me now. That Li Mubai. I don't know what's wrong with him. Every time he sees me, his gaze is strange. Once, he even called me Nuanyuan, and my eldest brother scolded him until he ran away. Swain Wan's father was a lecturer at the Hanlin Academy, and the Crown Prince greatly enjoyed listening to his lectures on classics and history. Li Mubai probably wanted to take advantage of this connection. After all, his godfather Deng Ruxing's efforts had yielded little result. He had long failed to gain the Crown Prince's favor, and having once held a high position, he simply lacked the patience to wait for several more years. A sudden commotion erupted from across the hallway, with familiar voices. When Swain Wan and I opened the door, we were surprised to see Li Mubai and Zhao Sai's. Turns out Li Mubai had somehow tracked down the Crown Prince's whereabouts and followed him to Drunken Immortal Pavilion. The guards at the entrance refused to announce him, leading to a confrontation. Hearing the disturbance inside, the Crown Prince sent Zhao Sai's out to handle it. Zhao Sai's had never liked Li Mubai to begin with. After barely exchanging 2 words, he was about to throw a punch when he suddenly noticed me emerging. His raised fist immediately softened. "Jinping, little sister, you're here for dinner too," he said, his expression shifting like a theatrical mask. From stern severity moments ago to a smile as warm as a spring breeze. "Their roasted squab is particularly delicious. You must try it." He still had the mood to chat with me about food. Swain Wan casually replied, "All right, we'll order later. Today I'm treating your sister Jinping to a meal, so feel free to suggest any delicious dishes." Zhao Sijia actually listed a few dish names. Li Mubai, fueled by alcohol, erupted in anger and his courage surged. "I said I want to see His Highness." Zhao Sijia scoffed. "Do you think His Highness meets with just any stray cat or dog? Get lost. Don't interfere with my conversation with Sister Jinping." Li Mubai's fury turned towards me. "Nan Jinping, did you say something to His Highness? There's no way His Highness would refuse to see me after reading my policy essay. It must be you holding a grudge and slandering me before him." Swain Wan looked at him in disbelief. "What are you talking about? What does this have to do with Jinping?" Li Mubai looked at her with a gentle expression. "Wan, Miss Sui, stay away from Nan Jinping. She's malicious, untalented, and lacks virtue. With a heavy dose of jealousy, you outshine her in every way, and one day she'll harm you." Swain Wan's face turned red with anger. "Are you out of your mind?" "I wasn't angry at all." Li Mubai's loss of composure precisely showed that he had lost his cool. But this wasn't enough yet. I asked, "What policy essay?" "The one His Highness had someone discard." Zhao Sijia replied, "Probably. Not sure. But Sister Jinping said it's definitely lost. And even if it weren't, I'd make sure His Highness discards it later." We exchanged glances, smiling affectionately at each other. Li Mubai, furious beyond reason, shouted, "Nan Jinping, don't push your luck. Haven't I warned you not to play tricks? You clearly have no respect for me." He completely confused his past and present lives, thinking he was still the high and mighty powerful minister, while I, with my family destroyed and myself left to his mercy, was at his mercy. He raised his hand to hit me. In reality, he couldn't actually hit me. Zhao Sijia was quick to kick him the moment he moved, but I still let out a sharp cry and deliberately fell to the ground. Since we were near the stairs, I rolled all the way down. Though there were no serious injuries, My forehead was cut open, blood streaming down my face, making it look particularly gruesome. Zhao Xizha was very clever and immediately took the initiative. Li Mabai, how dare you have the audacity to publicly harm the daughter of the Grand Preceptor in front of everyone? His voice was so loud that half the people in the tavern heard it. Before Li Mabai could defend himself, he was grabbed like a chicken and thrown down from the second floor. I recuperated at home for over half a month. My father tearfully accused Li Mubai of his misdeeds before the emperor, with the Duke of Chang'an's household quickly following suit. Xuanwan's father also took the opportunity to kick him while he was down, and several censors joined in the chorus of denunciations. Finally, the Crown Prince delivered his verdict. This man's character is utterly depraved, wholly unworthy of being a scholar of the imperial court. Thus, the emperor stripped Li Mubai of his top scholar title and the hard-earned official position. Li Mubai thus became the first top scholar in the dynasty's history to be stripped of his honors, ensuring his immortal fame in the annals. I never expected Li Mubai would still want to see me. I brought a maid skilled in martial arts and instructed her, if Li Mubai harms me, kill him on the spot. But Li Mubai lacked the courage for that. He had been thrown from the second floor of a tavern by Zhao Xizha, injuring his leg. Without timely treatment, it left him lame. He limped his way towards me, still wearing that faded cyan blue long gown with patched cuffs. Jinping, he said with a haggard face, unshaven and noticeably thinner. No longer the spirited top scholar he once was. It was my mistake in judging people. I was deceived. It turns out Jing Ke has been lying to me all along. She only knew a few characters, couldn't compose poetry or paint, nor play the qin. The one I've always loved is you. Jink's lies might have fooled him for a while, but not forever. Living together day and night, the truth was bound to come out. I know you still have feelings for me. The fact that you used Nuanyuan to sow discord between us proves you still care. Jinping, he called my name tenderly. You've already cost me my official rank. Surely your anger has subsided by now. I promise you, I will marry you. Willingly and gladly. From now on, we'll live well together. I'll make you a first-rank titled lady, the envy of every woman in Duanjing. Men, their confidence sometimes really makes me envious. I stared at him speechlessly. What about Jing Ke? Seeing that I responded, he was overjoyed and immediately said, she deceived me into marriage first. Not divorcing her is already being kind to her. Considering she's pregnant, I'll keep her as a concubine. After all, she used to serve you, so she can continue serving you in the future. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Li Mabai, in your past life, you endured for 10 years to avenge Jing Ke. I thought your love for her was deeper than the sea and higher than the mountains. But it turns out it's nothing more than this. For the sake of wealth and glory, you actually want to demote your wife to a concubine. Haha, how ridiculous. What do you take me for? Some lowly person. You're just a commoner, penniless and destitute. What makes you think I would choose you over the young master of the Chang'an Duke's residence? His face changed dramatically, alternating between green and white. I continued to provoke him. Didn't you say that your rise to high position wasn't due to our Prime Minister's residence? Now you see, you're just living off others. Without our Prime Minister's residence, you're nothing. Your life is destined to be like this. With our Prime Minister's residence standing in your way, you'll never get close to the Crown Prince. You'll never rise above your station. Li Mabai didn't make any public appearances for quite a long time after that, until Prince An entered the capital. Prince An is the youngest brother of the current emperor, only 4 years older than the Crown Prince, in stark contrast to the Crown Prince's diligence in governance and love for learning. He serves as a negative example, accomplished in neither literature nor martial arts, spending his days indulging in food, drink, and entertainment, and has even caused several scandalous incidents. But all of this was just his disguise. In his previous life, no one ever saw through his wolfish ambition until he raised an army in rebellion. The fiefdom of Prince An was located in Anyang. Ordinarily, He was not permitted to enter the capital without summons, only during the new year. In accordance with ancestral customs, would he come to the capital to accompany his mother, Consort Mu, for 2 to 3 months? He and Consort Mu shared a deep mother-son bond. In his previous life, he only rebelled after Consort Mu had passed away. The people I sent to keep an eye on Li Mubai reported that he secretly defected to Princeton. I breathed a sigh of relief. Li Mubai truly didn't let me down. Having already tasted the allure of power, how could he possibly be content to live out his days as an ordinary commoner? If he couldn't win the Crown Prince's favor, he could still gain the favor of Princeton. No one understood better than he that Princeton would rebel a decade later, nearly breaching the imperial capital. It was he who risked his life, venturing alone into the enemy camp to shatter the trust between Princeton and his strategist, turning them against each other and throwing their army into chaos. This gave the Crown Prince the opportunity to lead troops and annihilate them in one decisive strike. He was a great contributor to the rehabilitation and a true hero of the people. That's precisely why no one doubted his testimony against my father later on. He even knelt outside the Hall of Diligent Governance, kowtowing until his head was covered in blood, just to plead for mercy on my father's behalf. The Nan family was spared from execution because he refused the reward in exchange. What a loyal and righteous man! Who would have thought he was two-faced? I never mentioned to the Crown Prince that Princeton might rebel, without evidence. Making baseless accusations against a royal would only make the Crown Prince resent me. Moreover, although Princeton is unreliable, he has been extremely good to the Crown Prince and even saved his life once. The Crown Prince dotes on this young uncle and would never tolerate anyone slandering him. Li Mubai was well aware of this point. He wasn't the least bit afraid of me reporting him. In fact, he'd be delighted if I did. Something that wouldn't happen for another 10 years had no trace of evidence now. He was utterly confident that, without his interference in this lifetime, Princeton would surely succeed in his rebellion and ascend to the imperial throne. And with his merit in aiding the new emperor, he would inevitably rise to a position second only to the sovereign. Above all others, I didn't tell the Crown Prince, but I did tell my father. I said I'd had a nightmare. My father dismissed it as wild imagination and didn't take it seriously. But when I predicted what would happen in the coming days, he grew cautious. After Princeton entered the capital, as in previous years, he used the pretense of feasting and merrymaking to befriend many court officials. My father loved ancient paintings, so he gifted him one every year. This year, it was Wang Guanqian's landscape of rivers and mountains. In my past life, it was this very painting that became irrefutable evidence of my father's secret dealings with Princeton. Hidden inside the scroll rod of this mounted painting was a letter from Princeton bribing my father. Originally, there had been